Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another Patreon podcast. This is episode, I don't even know what episode it is. It's probably like episode 13 or something like that. But today we're introducing a new segment on the show. We are doing a segment called Gut Check that came from my beautiful, dark, twisted brain of mine. It is basically we will each throw scenarios, topics, hot takes, whatever at each other, and the other person will give their guttural reaction, hence the name, like just straight from their gut, immediate reaction on how they feel about it. And then we'll discuss. So, before we get into all of it, joining me, as always, the Stat King himself from Houston, Texas, Mr. McElwain. How you doing?
Doing well. Excited to try this out. We went with Patreon tonight. So let's just get right into it. Let's not beat around the bush per se. Let's just get right into this. We're hoping to keep this to about 30 minutes. So in and out. Do you want me to go first or do you want to start us off?
I'll start us off. I want to throw you a Steelers related question. It's a hard hitting one, and it's a tough one as well. So my question for you is: true or false? Kenny Pickett will earn a second contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
False.
Hmm.
He won't.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Um, let's talk about it just for a little bit. What is leaning you that way?
He doesn't. There's just not. Here's the thing: the Steelers are a loyal organization. So if he does earn a second contract, I think it'll be because he's a local kid. They drafted him in the first round, um, and potentially with a new offensive coordinator, uh, things start to open up for him offensively. He's got good weapons. The offensive line continues to improve. Um, but for me, I just don't see it. The accuracy issues have been there. And that was one thing he was supposed to be, at the very least, he was supposed to be accurate coming into the NFL. He's already 24 years old, so it's not like he's this young kid who's 21, 22, who still has a lot of room to grow. I know he's been great in the fourth quarter, but this is not a sustainable way of playing quarterback in the National Football League. Um, I I just you can't play to the Steelers standard with this model of offensive coordinator quarterback combination right now in the AFC. Like if the Steelers truly think they can compete in the AFC, it cannot be Kenny Pickett. You got to go out, swing the big bat, and get another guy. Maybe that's just more wishful thinking on my part, but I do not believe he'll get a second contract. He's a little bit injury prone, in my opinion. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I certainly hope that he succeeds, definitely. But it's to me, it's all about you're measured against your peers, and when your peers are in the AFC North and just the AFC in general, it becomes dicey at that point. If you're a guy who is older coming into the league and is expected to be to play top 15 level quarterback, but may not necessarily have the ceiling of Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and that's the toughest part about it. But
And if
let's leave it at that.
you're
Let's move on to.
gonna pay
Did
Pickett,
you want to add any more?
yeah, my last thing would be if you're going to pay Pickett, you're not going to be able to afford all these other great players. That's the other thing is you already have one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid defenses in the National Football League. And sooner rather than later, a guy like George Pickens is going to want his money. Um, you know, you got to go out and get offensive linemen. Like there are other payers you're going to have to pay eventually. Potentially a Joey Porter Jr. who looks like he could potentially turn into a star cornerback. And I just think at this point, um, those guys might have more value, add more value to this Steelers team than Kenny Pickett does. So that would be my last point. Once you right now, it's fine because he's not getting paid anything, and
Yeah.
you have a bunch of young offensive talent, and you have a good enough defense and a good enough coach to where you can win football games and stay competitive. But eventually, that contract is going to become burdensome and it's going to affect the way that you build your roster and you're not going to be able to have all the luxuries that you have right now. You might have to lose a guy like George Pickens, who I think is special.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't get him involved in the offense enough, in my opinion, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. That's a conversation that would certainly help my fantasy team. But let's move on. What did you have in mind for your first question for me?
Okay, so we all know about this investigation going on at Michigan right now. Um, so my question is, with the chaos and potential legal battles that are about to potentially ensue and are looming at Michigan in light of this sign stealing investigation, your gut tells you that Jim Harbaugh eventually returns to the NFL, and you think it could be as soon as next season.
Yes. Uh, yes. Yes. I think um, there's going to be some dominoes that fall. And once they fall, um, the NCAA is going to slam their fist. The Big Ten will slam their fist. And there will be nothing left for Jim Harbaugh to coach, really. And it's a shame because he's built something, you know, really great there at Michigan. But you know, you can't tolerate what has been going on there. Um, in terms of landing spots, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the New Orleans Saints.
Interesting.
No reason at all, just gut feeling.
My gut says yes, he will return to the NFL, but it might not be next year. I think a lot of it depends on number one, what the Big Ten eventually rules, uh, potentially here in the next couple of weeks. I mean, they could probably. I think what's on the table right now is they could suspend him for 2 or 3 games. Like potentially he could miss, say, the Ohio State game at the end of the season. Uh, and there could be fines on the way from the Big Ten conference. I'm not sure how much further the conference can go than that, but I think that would be the short term slap on the wrist until the NCAA gets its shit together and potentially comes down hard on Michigan this offseason. Um, if they end up somehow winning a national championship this year, um, I think then the chances that he goes to the NFL become greater. But I think with the 12-team playoff, with NIL and all that stuff, I think a lot of it depends on what happens at the end of this season. So I think he does eventually go back to the NFL, but it might not be next year. So that's my gut feeling on it. What's your next question for me?
Let's see here. All right, my next question for you is: are you taking the Kansas City Chiefs or the field to win the AFC? So basically, the gist of this question, it roots from Tiger Woods back in his heyday. People used to ask in terms of betting, are you taking Tiger Woods or the field? And that's basically what this question is. Are you taking the Kansas City Chiefs or the field in the AFC?
My gut says take the Chiefs.
Interesting.
I think they'll have home field advantage. Um,
Yeah, that's the big part.
they have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and a really goddamn good defense. So I'll take the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I still got to see it from Lamar. I know the Bengals could probably do it, uh, and I think the Dolphins. I'll have to. I need to see a little bit more. I actually don't believe in the Bills right now. Um, that's just my feeling on it. I would take if you're giving me the Chiefs or the field. I would take the Chiefs right now. Maybe
yeah,
Jacksonville is included in there as well.
yeah. I think I would take the Chiefs also. And I think it might all ride on home field advantage. I really do. I think if Kansas City has to go to Baltimore, then I think that changes things a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, if they go to Cincinnati, then maybe not as much because they've played Cincinnati in playoff scenarios before. I think this will be the first time that the Chiefs have played Baltimore in this version of Baltimore in a playoff scenario. So I think that would change things, but it's all going to ride on home field advantage. And right now, I can't bet against the Chiefs. I'm right there with you.
Okay. All right. Given what you've seen so far at Colorado this year with Deion Sanders, and given that uh, Colorado is moving to the Big 12 next year, along with the other programs that are going with them, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State. And given that Texas and Oklahoma will be moving out of the Big 12, but given the other good programs that are still in the Big 12, like Kansas, who I think is now a consistent, pretty good program. Kansas State, we know. TCU could be better next year. Um, on a scale of 1 to 10, your confidence that Deion Sanders can win a Big 12 championship in the next 3 years in the Big 12, given what he can do in the transfer portal and what he's already proven he can do in recruiting, is what on a scale of 1 to 10?
Um,
And also knowing that he could potentially lose Shador Sanders.
right, right. I'm gonna say a 6.5. Um, I think it really all rides on what are they going to do about the trenches. That's really all it rides on to me because the Big 12, I think the coaching in the Big 12 is extremely underrated. I really do. What Kansas State has done with their coach, Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State, I mean, top tier program in my opinion, like super underrated. Um, even Baylor from time to time is good up front at the line of scrimmage. So and then they still got to play Utah. Utah, I think they go to the Big 12, they're immediately the favorites to win the Big 12 next year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say 6.5 just because for one, I think there's been some coaching, mistakes on Dion's part in terms of game management, but I think that will get better as time goes along as well. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I think I'm right around the 6. You brought up an excellent point with the coaching right now in the Big 12. Chris Kleiman at K State is the first guy that comes to mind. Sonny Dykes, even though TCU's in a little bit of a transition year after what they lost to the NFL, he's an excellent coach. And the
Yep.
quarterback that's going to play against Texas this weekend, Josh Hoover, was highly recruited out of high school. And he's another young quarterback, much like Malik Murphy, who is taking this year to kind of figure it out. Next year, I think we could see him make a big jump. And you look at Kansas with Lance Leopold and what they've done in rebuilding that program. You made an excellent point about Oklahoma State. That's a program that could be in the Big 12 championship in a couple of weeks, and they have been there, done that. I don't know what the future holds right now for Dave Aranda at Baylor. I think the seat is potentially heating up there. We know they went to the Big 12 championship a couple of years ago, but it's been a rough go of it since then. Uh, I We'll have to see, but that's a program that's proven that it can do damage. And then Utah is the big one. They're moving to the Big 12 with Colorado. And don't forget about a team like Arizona,
Yeah,
who
Arizona is interesting for sure.
Arizona's, what they're doing right now. They're one of the more overlooked teams in the country. And so I think that conference is, I mean, even the newer teams who are struggling this year with, the UCFs of the world, with Gus Malzahn
Cincinnati,
at coach,
Houston.
Cincinnati, Houston. I mean, I think it's going to be a really evenly balanced, pretty good conference. But I think with the expanded resources that Dion's going to have, given the job that he's done this year, given NIL, the transfer portal, I mean, I think Dion can go into the transfer portal and potentially pull a guy like Sam Hartman, get that quarterback through the transfer portal. It's really all going to ride on, though, can they fix the offensive and defensive lines? I think they will eventually. Um, I don't know about winning a Big 12 championship in the next 3 years, but I think we could see them make a Big 12 championship. I don't think that's out of the question. So I'm right above 50% confidence. I'm about 60% right now, 6 out of 10. So I'm right there with you.
All right. Perfect. Okay. Um, let's see. Okay, so my next question is a little bit different. So basically, I'm gonna put out names of players in college football, and you're just gonna say yes or no on whether they'll be drafted in the first round come April. And it's super early, and it's not nothing is set in stone, and we're so far away from it. But this is all just gut reaction, and I think that's what's fun about it. So, first player, Bo Nix. What do you think?
Yes.
I agree. I think he goes first round. I mean, you can't you know you can't replace experience. You can't teach experience. 56 college football games and plus playing in you know in the SEC on bad football teams where he had to learn pocket presence and how to not play hero ball and all that type of stuff. I think that's invaluable.
I think he can become a better version of Derek Carr in the league.
Yeah,
That
I
would
can
that
see
would
that.
be my right off the top of my head. That would be my comparison. But we have a bunch of time to talk about that kind of stuff. I think
Right, right.
he's accurate. He's got a big arm. He's a really smart kid. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of Justin Herbert in that respect. I think he's got a
Yeah.
really good head on his shoulders. Um, He's not going to have any problem getting into an organization and understanding the offense. I think he's a good leader. Yes, I think NFL teams are going to uh, drool over that guy, especially when they see him at his pro day, him the rest of the year, and him at the combine. I think his intangibles and tangibles are really, really good. First round worthy.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, next one. Jaden Daniels. What do you think? It's a tough one.
Yes. I would take
I,
him over Quinn Ewers right now.
I think I would too. I mean, the running ability he showed against Alabama to go along with, you know, I think the most interesting part about him is the chemistry he's shown with Malik Neighbors. I think you look at him and you go, you pair him with a great wide receiver, and you know that he will put in the work to build the chemistry necessary. I mean, the back shoulder stuff, the accuracy outside the numbers. I mean, it's all there with him.
Yeah, I think he's shown enough at LSU. His defense is terrible, but what LSU's done on offense this year, my one knock on Jaden Daniels is I think he takes way too many hits, especially when he's on the move and running the
Yeah,
ball. And you, with his smaller, slender frame, I don't love that, but I think he could use to put on a little weight going into the NFL if he's going to continue to play like he plays right now. But he's so dangerous. He's hard to get on the ground, and he's a really good quarterback from inside and outside the pocket. So yes, I think he's a first round talent. Later first round, but he'll go in the first round.
yeah. I think he'll be late first round, if not maybe a Joey Porter Jr. situation early in the second round, someone trading up.
Yeah, I agree.
But technically, Pittsburgh didn't trade up. But you know what I mean. Okay, last one. Um, AD Mitchell.
No, I think he's a day two guy. It might be early on day two, but I think he's a day two guy.
I'm
I
gonna
still wouldn't.
say,
I still wouldn't take AD Mitchell over Xavier Worthy if I were an NFL GM.
yeah. I'm gonna say no also, but I think AD Mitchell is the kind of guy that might be really high on some teams' draft boards and really low on other teams.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
could.
he's so fluid. Like he can run any route.
It's hard to say. We don't know where the teams are.
Yeah,
I don't know.
like obviously we wouldn't know who
Yeah,
would do what, but
yeah. My
it'll be
gut,
an interesting
my gut,
conversation come April for sure.
my gut feeling is no. I think we could see a run. My gut feeling right now is we could see a big run of Texas players drafted on day two. Like I think right now we're going to see Jonathan Brooks go on day two. I think he's going to enter the draft with the season that he's had. Mel Kiper even has him right now as his number one back going into as of right now on his uh, early big boards. I think you could see a Jatavion Sanders if he doesn't get in the first round, definitely go in the second or third round. I think T'Vondre Sweat is a guy that if he doesn't sneak into the later first rounds, could be a second round type of guy the way he's performed. I think we could see a big run of Texas players drafted on day two. So
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. Um, what did you have next for me?
okay. This is kind of a more open-ended question, and this is I want your gut feeling. Just right off the bat, What do you feel? What does your gut say? MLB free agency has begun. Your gut says that Shohei Ohtani will soon be a member of the.
Shohei Ohtani will play. I think he might be a Dodger.
That's what my gut is saying. I think that's the most likely scenario. I think he wants to stay on the West Coast. Um, I think the Giants could potentially pony up some money for him. I think the Dodgers will definitely try to do so, and don't sleep on the Mariners.
Yeah,
That's just my gut.
Mariners could be very interesting in that battle for sure.
It's just my gut feeling. I think it's going to. I don't think he's going to rush a decision by any stretch of the imagination. But my gut feel is he stays on the West Coast, and by doing so, logic would say, and my gut would say that he goes to the Dodgers.
Yeah, my gut is telling me he either goes to the Dodgers or he stays with the Angels. I think he gives me the vibe of the type of guy that um, just loves routine and familiarity. And I think staying in the same city, will help with that. Like changing teams and staying in the same spot. Like he wouldn't even have to move from his house. I mean that makes a huge difference. Um, but who knows? We'll see.
Okay. What's your next one?
All right, let me see. Okay. I've got another baseball one. Um, okay, so Reese Hoskins, as you know, will likely be parting from the Philadelphia Phillies. He missed last year because of a torn ACL, but we all know that when he plays, he's a beast. So, gut feeling, where will Reese Hoskins play next season?
Ooh, Reese Hoskins. Remind me, he's a what position is Reese Hoskins? First base?
I
Do you
think
know?
I think he's first base. Yeah, because right, yeah, I think that's what makes the um that's what makes him expendable at the moment is the fact that Bryce is playing first base now.
I see. I see. Um, my gut feeling says that Reese Hoskins will be playing baseball.
I'll give you my team while you're thinking. I think he'll be a Cub. The reports basically is that Chicago or specifically the Cubs will be buying, trying to compete next year, and I think that'll be kind of the get the ball rolling type of move that they need. I think.
Yeah, I could see that. Um, for whatever reason, the Mariners popped in my mind, but I don't know their
Ooh,
situation at first base, so I don't
okay.
really know. I'm trying to think about situations at first. Uh, I think the Orioles could be a team that looks at him and says, "Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Let's add another bat to our lineup. Maybe this could really take us over the top."
I mean, shoot, if he goes to the Orioles, I mean, can't overlook them after that because they got the experience under their belt. And then you
but
add a guy like Reese Hoskins, who's played in the World Series, has that experience as well.
but out of the teams that we all mentioned, I think the Cubs probably make the most baseball sense. But that's a great question. I didn't. Is he a free agent? Are they gonna just release him or what? You know
Well,
what's gonna happen?
what happened was I opened the Athletic while we were preparing for this, and the one of the first articles that popped up is Phillies parting ways with Reese Hoskins, blah 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 blah. So
Interesting.
I I don't think he's a free agent. I think they're going to be trading him.
Ooh, okay.
Um, but I will get into another baseball question because I think this is a really interesting one. It has to do with your Yankees. So the question is: the Yankees are blank moves away from being contenders
Contenders in the American League,
in the American League. Correct.
minimum 3 moves away, and I'll tell you what those moves are. They need another starting pitcher because Severino's gone, and we've seen, even though they got Rodon and he struggled a little bit last year coming off the injury, I think he'll be more back to himself next year when he's had an opportunity for a full offseason. You have Colin Rodon. Nestor is a nice piece, but you need another guy. You need a solid number 3, number 4 rotation piece in that rotation to account for the losses of Domingo Herman, Luis Severino, and other guys. Uh, Whether that be maybe you bring back Jordan Montgomery or you somebody. I mean, somebody of that ilk. You got to be able to go out and get a reliable starter.
Yep.
Um, they need a left fielder, preferably a left-handed bat to add into their lineup. They need more balance in their lineup. I think Cody Bellinger is the perfect guy to play at Yankee Stadium. And I think it's likely at this point that if he doesn't re-sign with Chicago or maybe go somewhere else, I think it's likely that the Yankees uh, heavily consider getting a guy like Cody Bellinger to add into their lineup who can play left field. One of their biggest problems past couple years has been that hole at left field. They tried Aaron Hicks, didn't work. They tried Oswaldo Cabrera out there, it hasn't worked. Whoever it may be, name anybody. Giancarlo Stanton, he's too injury prone for that. Um, it they need a guy in left field who's a solid defender and a left-handed bat that will fit well with the short porch at Yankee Stadium. They need a left fielder, and then I think they still need another outfielder. Um, I, because the reason I say that is because Jason Dominguez, otherwise known as the what do they call him? Shoot, I'm blanking, but um,
Is that the no? That's not the Martian. Just kidding.
it is the Martian. It is the
Oh,
Martian,
okay.
otherwise known as the Martian. It unfortunately underwent Tommy John, so we're going to be waiting
Oh,
until about late July, early August of next season for him to come back. So you need another reliable outfielder to take his place. So you at least need 2 outfielders, but I would say both left-handed, and another really solid starting pitcher to go behind Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon to even get you to the level of, I think, back to being a playoff team in the American League. And then you need guys like DJ LeMahieu, um, Giancarlo Stanton uh, to start hitting again. Because it's not just, you know, a talent problem. It's a guys not performing up to the back of their baseball cards problem. Uh, so I think they're at least minimum 3 moves away. I think they're probably closer to 5 moves away from being real World Series type contenders. And I think one of those moves could potentially be getting rid of a guy or two and opening up
hmm
a couple spots for these younger players that we saw have moments last year. You know, the Oswald Perazzas, the Anthony Volpes. Um, Maybe you move off a guy like Glaber Torres, who's been good for you and was one of your best hitters last year in what was a terrible year for the Yankees offensively. But you open it up for a guy like Oswald Peraza, who the Yankees say is their future. You know, there's a reason they haven't gone out and tried to trade for Juan Soto or a guy like that and make a big move that you think the Yankees would potentially make. The reason for that is because their farm system, number one, isn't very deep. And number two, they believe in these guys. They believe in the Martian. They believe in Anthony Volpe. They believe in Oswald Peraza, guys at the top of their farm system to be kind of the next version of the baby bombers like Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez and uh, Didi Gregorius were back in 2017 when they made that initial run to the ALCS.
Right.
So
Okay.
sorry for going on a little bit over.
No, no, you're good, dude. Well, I mean, you mentioned any of our favorite teams, and we will go off. Like that's how it is, man. And I loved your point about Cody Bellinger. I think that would be the perfect move for sure. Um, I think for the Cubs' sake, hopefully that doesn't happen because if they lose Cody Bellinger, a MVP candidate, that would really really hurt. When like it would for any team, of course, but I think especially for them who really trying to move forward and compete. Um, but yeah, I think you made some really good points there.
Okay, this is a shorter one, um, but it's just one I have to ask you. The Vandergrift Vipers football team, 10-0, undefeated in district. They are this year. They are UIL Texas 6A Division 1. So last year when they made the state championship, they were Division 2. This year they've made the step up to Division 1, so they will be playing a little bit higher of a level of competition going into the playoffs. They went 10-0 this year. They pretty much destroyed everyone that they played. You can go look at the scores. I'm not going to run through them. I'm not going to waste your time. But this Friday, November 10th at 7 p.m. on a neutral field, they will face off against Lake Travis High School, who went 8-2 in the first round of the playoffs. Vandergrift has never
Oh
beaten Lake
my!
Travis. Vandergrift has never beaten Lake Travis. You think your gut says they get it done this Friday?
Fuck yeah! Oh yeah! 100%. Yes, 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 yes. Slam the table. It's done. Uh,
I think
okay,
I think
so
so too.
let me give you some backstory. So Friday nights, early on in their football season, I would turn on sports radio and be like, "Oh, the Vipers are on," and apparently they had like a deal done with the local sports radio to get their games on there each week. But man, they're legit. They are really really legit, and the defense though, that's where that's where they're serious is on defense. Um, the offense is great too, but the defense to me is what is going to win the game for them.
I think they will beat Lake Travis. For I think it would be the first time, and I think they're ready to go on a run. What will be interesting will be when later on, closer to potentially getting to the state championship, they potentially face off against Westlake. That'll be the real test for them. I think they will beat Lake Travis on Friday night. I just have a feeling. They're good on defense. They score plenty of points. Um, yeah, I think Drew Sanders, the way that, I mean, it's been a steady rise in terms of the trajectory of the Vandergrift football. I guess you could say program. I don't
Yeah,
know if
program. Yeah, I guess.
that's necessarily the word for it, but that's the word I'm going to use. Yeah, I think this is a team and a coach that continually gets better and better each and every year. Um, it is a step up in competition going from D2 to D1, but it's nothing that this team, this version of this Vandergrift team can't handle. And I think they will be up to the task on Friday and they will beat Lake Travis and they might do it by 2 scores.
Yeah, I
Just my gut. Just my gut.
completely unrelated, but my dad and Drew Sanders feuded years back, and my dad hates Drew Sanders' guts. But man, I mean, for me, I don't really give a crap. It's just cool seeing our high school do great things in football, man. It's good to see.
Yeah. Okay. Give me one more and then we can wrap this thing up. Do you have one more?
Yeah, I got one more for you. We're headed to the basketball sphere of things. Okay, so this one, it's very open ended, and you can sort of define the word legacy however you would like to. Um, but here's the question: the question is, who will have the greater legacy in 5 years? Jason Tatum or Devin Booker?
Ooh, greater legacy in 5 years.
So let me look up how old Tatum. I'm pretty sure Tatum is 26. Has already made it finals, just like uh, Devin Booker has. Let's see, Jason Tatum age 25 years old, but that's wrong. He's still 19, obviously. Uh, and then Devin Booker. And then Booker is 27. So in 5 years, Jason Tatum will be 30 years old and Devin Booker will be 32.
My gut says Devin Booker, but I don't know why it says that. Like I can't. I'd have to think of a more
You know,
developed.
it's funny you say that because my gut is telling me the same thing, man. I it's
I think
it's a
Devin
tough one.
Booker.
Yeah.
I think Devin Booker is on the brink of really becoming that tier one ish superstar in the NBA.
Yeah.
I think
I
he's that
think
damn good. Not that Jason Tatum isn't. I just feel like my gut says Devin Booker. I don't know. What's your thought process on it?
yeah, my thought process is really about the playoffs in particular. And not that Devin Booker has been perfect in the playoffs. He certainly hasn't, but um I think there are times where Jason Tatum, this is going to sound harsh. This is going to sound really harsh, but I would say he has less killer instinct than Devin Booker. I guess there's a way to say it. I just think Devin Booker, he's a killer, man. He's just, I don't know. I think that with the fact that my Mavs played them in that crazy 7 game series, I disliked him for a while, but I watch him play and I'm just like, how can I dislike this guy? I mean, he's a bucket. He competes his butt off, and what he did in last year's playoffs, I mean, that's a playoff run that people will look up in 20 years and be like, wait, he did that on that percentage shooting? What? Yeah.
Yeah, and he also is now a really fucking good playmaker,
Yeah.
and he's more than serviceable, if not good defensively. Um, yeah, I think they're close.
Yeah. I think it's close also.
It's a definitely a conversation that we could go on forever about. But my gut right now says Devin Booker. So
Okay. I think that's a good one to end on. What do you think?
I think so too. I didn't have anything else. Those were my four, but I thought this was really fun, and this is something I think should be a continued um, thing on this podcast.
For sure, man. I thought this was really fun. Okay. Um, that's gonna do it. If you enjoyed this, leave a comment down below. Give us feedback. We love the feedback. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this on Patreon available for free, and then I'm also gonna put it on podcast platforms because I think um, it shouldn't be hidden on the Patreon or something like that. I think it should be on the podcast platform. I think um, it's podcast worthy. I think this was kind of the test run to see if how it would work in a podcast format, and I think it was an overwhelming success.
I agree with you. Okay. Um, so that's going to do it. Hopefully, this becomes like a every couple weeks, every month thing that we do on this podcast. And I guess um, just like the chances of Michigan not getting punished by the Big Ten and the NCAA, we are gone. Peace out.
Peace out. It's not personal.